All around the world, theme parks are enjoyed by hundreds of millions of people each year. Much of the draw for the people is how the huge rides can give you the feeling of danger while actually remaining safe. This has not only continued to drive business for the parks, it also drives the visions for the ride designers who constantly seek bigger and more extreme attractions. But even though these massive thrill machines are built with tons of safety, there is still always the potential that something may go wrong. Sadly, there have been situations where things did exactly that, leading to serious injuries and even the loss of life for some riders, forcing these rides to be shut down for good. From wooden coasters to water slides, here are 5 theme park rides that were shut down. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe to Underworld to see more just like it. Throughout the 1990s, roller coasters started entering the steel age, with their wooden counterparts becoming more and more rare. Today, they're all but extinct. When traditional roller coasters were first being built, the timber was actually cut on site and secured with bolts and plates to form their intricate support systems. This led to imperfections in the supports and tracks. This is what gave the wooden coasters their bumpy, rough feeling. That brings us to Mason, Ohio, at Kings Island Theme Park. On April 28, 2000, they opened a wooden roller coaster called Son of the Beast, themed as a sequel to one of the park's other signature attractions, the Beast. At the time of its construction, it was the only wooden coaster nationally ranked in the top 10 for track height, track length, drop height, and speed, officially being recognized as the world's first wooden hypercoaster. It even had a loop. But, as we just talked about, wooden coasters are incredibly bumpy. So, with the coaster's speed reaching right around 78 miles per hour or 126 kilometers per hour, it went from simply bumpy to downright violent. In 2006, an accident occurred at a section of the ride known as the Rose Bowl. A structural failure formed a slight dip in the track that created a pothole effect. A train running on the track passed over the area, severely jolting the riders. After the train returned to the station, riders complained of injuries. 27 people went to the hospital with mostly head and neck injuries, with all but 2 being released the same day. The ride stayed closed until 2007. Then, in 2009, a woman came forward claiming to have suffered a head injury after riding Son of the Beast. She reported her injuries just over 2 weeks after her visit to the park. Investigations were done, and nothing was found to be out of the ordinary. However, it was enough to bring about the closure of the ride for good. An enclosed water slide with a complete loop that regularly gave customers bloody noses, a wheeled ride with no brakes that shot down a concrete and fiberglass track, a freshwater pool with humongous waves that required lifeguards to rescue over 24 people per day. What could go wrong? This was Action Park in Vernon, New Jersey. With all of these notorious and ominous features, it's no wonder why this was arguably the most dangerous water park in the country. Opened in 1978, Action Park was one of the first modern water parks in the United States. The philosophy of the CEO, Gene Mulvihill, was that the park visitors should have full control of their own experiences, unhindered by park restrictions. His visions were of a park where patrons managed the rides. This includes how fast and high they went. One extreme example was the park's Alpine Slide, which was a long, cement and fiberglass-filled track that visitors went down riding on a wheeled sled. It took a ski lift to get to the summit. Each sled was supposed to have brakes, allowing the guests to control their own descents. However, many were broken. In this case, it wasn't just one ride that closed the park. It was a combination of rides. By the time it was closed in 1996, there had been 6 fatalities in the park, including 3 drownings in the wave pool, an electrocution on the kayak experience, and a death on the Alpine Slide. There were also many accusations of staff members being poorly trained and under the influence while working. Today, the park is open again, but under much stricter guidelines. The early 1900s is when roller coasters were really taking off as an attraction. One of the most popular coasters in the northeastern United States was the Derby Racer, located in Revere Beach. It was actually a pair of coasters that were designed to take off at the same time and race. The coaster's designers claimed that when it was constructed in 1911, it was the second largest roller coaster ever built. However, this claim was never officially verified. The Derby Racer was known for a particularly poor safety record. On June 8, 1911, only a few months after it was opened, a young man was thrown from the coaster and sustained life-threatening injuries. Less than 2 weeks after that incident, the coaster was reopened with little to no changes being made. 6 years later, another man lost his life after being thrown in front of a coaster train. Within another 10 years, there were 3 more injuries on the coaster, all of them being severe. Eventually, the first Derby Racer was demolished in 1936. However, a new racing roller coaster with the same name was constructed in 1937. This coaster was built by a different contractor and encompassed a different design. Unfortunately, there were little to no records of this roller coaster kept on file, so it's not known what this track's safety record was. It was eventually demolished 11 years later in 1948. Water parks have always been among the most visited types of amusement parks in the world. Kansas City, Kansas is home to one such park called Schlitterbahn Water Park. As Schlitterbahn had 3 other successful locations in Texas, there was much anticipation surrounding the opening of this, as it was the first venture outside of the Texan border. 2009 was the year of the launch, and it was incredibly successful. In 2012, the water park announced plans to construct the world's tallest and fastest water slide. It would be named Verruckt, which is German for crazy or insane. Designed by the water park's co-owner, Verruckt would be a 3-person raft slide with an uphill section. The initial drop was a 17-story plunge with a 5-story uphill section. At just under 169 feet, or 51 meters, the starting point was taller than Niagara Falls and reached a maximum speed of 65 miles per hour. Just at the top of the uphill section, engineers had installed a net that was held together by metal supports as there was a risk of people going airborne. That's exactly what happened in 2016 when the 10-year-old son of a Kansas state representative went for a ride on the Verruckt. He was sitting with 2 other passengers when they came to the top of the uphill section and the raft caught air, sending the passengers into the netting. Tragically, the boy hit one of the metal supports, resulting in a fatal accident. The passengers were seriously hurt as well, but survived. The park ended up closing in 2018. Amusement parks are held to a number of standards, both for safety and for reporting incidents. Not only does this allow for the safety of riders, but it is also useful for accountability. However, there are times where some parks do not follow the proper protocols, and the results can be devastating. Such was the case at Calypso Park in Ontario, Canada. This park was home to a water slide called the Streamer Slide, which was a long slide where passengers ride in a raft and are dumped into a bowl-shaped area just before continuing down the rest of the slide. It wasn't an uncommon type of slide, as this same design was used in various other parks around the world. However, what was happening was that the workers were not operating the slide in a safe way, and the water output was not set to safe levels. And yet that wasn't the worst of it. As people started getting injured, they refused to report it, allowing more and more people to hurt themselves. Eventually, though, they were reported and an investigation was launched. It was found that there were a number of injuries that were incredibly serious. Workers were letting riders go at the wrong times, causing some of them to collide, while others, caught by the fierce water flow, were thrown violently into the bowl-shaped apparatus. One instance saw a rider fall out of her raft, resulting in her having a broken vertebra. Another incident involved a man named Marek Strelek, whose raft collided with another. The result was Strelek falling out of his raft, being thrown over the side and landing on the concrete below. He was knocked unconscious and had to remain in the hospital for 3 days. As a result, the park was fined $400,000 and charged in criminal court. The ride was soon closed. Chasing the perfect thrill is always something we strive to do. However, when chasing these thrills, there is always the risk for injury, or worse. After all, we are riding these things that were built by imperfect people. Chances are minuscule, but never zero. All we can do is continue to have faith in the operators and their attention to the ride's upkeep. Be sure to click the link on screen now to see another video just like this one. As always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.